Hello students, welcome to the next lecture on the numerical analysis. Today we will discuss the concept why there is a need of the Regula Falsi method. Myself Dr. Harish Garg, you can follow and subscribe my YouTube channel. What we have discussed so far, we have learned the idea of the bisection methods and why there is a need of the bisection method. In this last lecture, we learned bisection method is a simple and the reliable for finding the roots of the equation f of x is 0. Why the method is a simple and the reliable? Because it always chooses the midpoint of the interval. Now, in this lecture, we will discuss why there is a need of the Regula Falsi method. Regula Falsi method is also known as false position method. So before I directly jump to the Regula Falsi method, let me ask the one question. Suppose we know the roots of any equation f of x is equal to 0 lies between 1 and 2. What does it mean? That means f of 1 and f of 2, if you find the product, that must be less than of the 0. It implies there exists at least one root between 1 and 2 by using intermediate value theorem. तो अगर मैं आपसे ये पूछूं कि इसका रूट्स कैसे निकालोगे, यू मे से कैन आई से द 1.1 is the root or 1.35 is the root or 1.5 is the root or 1.435 is the root and so on. We can never guess that. Fine. But if you are using the bisection method, then we always start from the 1.5 and then we can proceed the steps of the bisection method. However, instead of taken as a midpoint, if I use the Regula Falsi method, I can compute the function value at the point 1, at the point 2. So assume that the function value at the point 1 is my 100 and the function value at the point 2 is my minus of 2. So a is my 1, b is equal to 2. So that value is my 1 comma 100. Fine. And that point is my 2 comma minus 2. Now if I ask you, can you start with the midpoint? Think about a moment. Can you start with the midpoint? Answer is no. Why? Because you can see our target is to find the value of the x so that f of x will be 0. So clearly say, because minus of 2 is near to the 0 as compared to the 100. That means whatsoever the root of this f of x is 0, that is always lies near to the 2. Fine, because 2 के ऊपर वैल्यू आपके पास है minus of 2 which is very near to the 0. So that means we can see the graph is much closer to the x-axis near the point 2 than the 1. So that means you can say, that means can you say you can choose the midpoint as a blindly like this 1 and 2, 1.2 like we did in the bisection method? So the answer is probably no, because it will take more time to reach to the convergence solution. Fine. So इसको remove करने के लिए what should can do? So that means we need one extra information that is called as the function value. Like in the previous one, as I give you the function values, f of 1 is 100, f of 2 is equal to minus of 2. So that extra information will provide you the exact meaning of the roots. And that is the idea behind the Regula Falsi method. That means we are needed the interval where the roots lies, plus we also need the function value at the point A and the point B. By considering both the points, we can define the method that is called as the Regula Falsi method. How the Regula Falsi methods work to find the roots? So I can assume that the value of the f of A is my positive, value of the f of B is my negative. So definitely there exists at least one root between the A and B. So how you can find that? If I draw the straight line between the point A and the B, then look at that, the straight line which cut on the x-axis. ये जो straight line आपके पास है, फाइन, क्या आप इसकी स्ट्रेट लाइन इक्वेशन बना सकते हो? Of course, you can do y minus y1, which is equal to slope fb minus fa divided by x2 minus x1 into x minus a. ये जो स्ट्रेट लाइन है x एक्सिस पे कहाँ पे कट करेगी? It cut it at this point. Fine. So find the point where this straight line cut. तो जो भी आपका जिस पॉइंट पे कट करेगी that is called as the new root. ये आपका पॉइंट कट कर गई, इस पॉइंट को हम कहेंगे that is a next approximation. Instead of taken as a midpoint, you can clearly say this point is not the midpoint. If I call as a C is not the midpoint. यहाँ कहीं होगा ना इसका midpoint, तो C is not a midpoint. Fine. अब जैसे आपको C मिल गया, इस C के ऊपर फंक्शन वैल्यू क्या है? नेगेटिव. फाइन. तो जैसे ही आपने नेगेटिव वैल्यू ली एंड देन यू कैन लुक अबाउट द A एंड C. अगेन आप दोनों के बीच में स्ट्रेट लाइन ज्वाइन करो, वेयर इट कट. फाइन, दैट इज माय नेक्स्ट अप्रोक्सीमेशन. फिर से स्ट्रेट लाइन कट करो एंड देन यू कैन रीच एट द पॉइंट. Why the straight line is a perfect cut? Because the straight line gives us an estimate of how the function behave between the two end points. Fine. तो आप स्ट्रेट लाइन लेते रहिए, जहां जहां पे वो कट करता जाएगा वहां पे एक्स एक्सिस के ऊपर एक पॉइंट ले लो. दैट इज ऑलवेज माई न्यू पॉइंट. और ये पॉइंट कैसे निकालोगे? वंस यू कैन ड्रॉ द स्ट्रेट लाइन, यू कैन सी ऑन द एक्स एक्सिस इसका पॉइंट क्या होगा? एनी पॉइंट. Y axis is my 0, so I can substitute the value of the y to be 0 and find the value of the x. तो वो आपके पास क्या हो जाएगा? न्यू पॉइंट ऑफ द न्यू अप्रोक्सीमेशन पॉइंट. फाइन. नाउ so this the same idea we have seen. The Regula Falsi method is often smarter than the bisection method. Now what is the imagination behind the Regula Falsi method? Suppose यू आर क्लिमिंग अ हिल. तो कैसे क्लिम करते हो? अगर तो आपके पास ये हिल है, तो अगर आप उसको सेंटर पॉइंट से जंप स्टार्ट करते हो आप, इफ यू वॉक एग्जैक्टली हाफ वे, देन यू आर ऑलवेज वेस्टिंग योर टाइम. फाइन, बिकॉज इट विल टेक मोर टाइम टू रीच एट द टॉप ऑफ द हिल. बट if somebody will tell you that the destination is much closer to the one side, तो आप क्या करोगे इस केस में? Definitely you will jump or you will move towards that side. जिस तरफ आपके फ्रेंड ने, आपके कुलीग ने कहा कि इस तरफ से आसान है जाना, तो आप डेफिनेटली उस तरफ को मुड़ जाओगे. So that means someone will give you the extra information. That is the extra information. Because पहले तो आपको कोई information नहीं थी जब आपने स्टार्ट करना था कि वो लेफ्ट साइड से स्टार्ट करें कि राइट साइड से, तो आपने मिडवे से स्टार्ट करा. फाइन. बट आफ्टर सम टाइम यू विल गेट द इंफॉर्मेशन दैट लेफ्ट साइड इज मच क्लोजर टू द other side. Then you will naturally take a larger step towards the that side. That means that extra information will provide you the more sufficient tool to find the solution. The Regula Falsi method does exactly like this method. That means it allow the function value themselves to guide for the next approximation. That means f of a and f of b will provide you the appropriate solution. बट बाय इफ यू रिमेंबर, बाइसेक्शन मेथड के अंदर एफ ऑफ ए, एफ ऑफ बी, इसका कोई भी रोल नहीं था. बाइसेक्शन मेथड इज इंडिपेंडेंट ऑफ द फंक्शन वैल्यू. हाउएवर द बाइसेक्शन मेथड डिपेंडेंट ऑन द साइन ऑफ द फंक्शन वैल्यू. फाइन. बट इसकी वैल्यू क्या आएगी उसके ऊपर कोई इंडिपेंडेंट था. वो सिर्फ इतना पता होना चाहिए था प्लस है कि नेगेटिव है. बट बाइसेक्शन रेगुलर फॉल्सी मेथड, अगर वो प्लस है तो प्लस भी कितना, whether it's a 3, whether it's a 3.4 and so. Another example, finding the comfortable room temperature. ये एग्जाम्पल आप अपनी डे टू डे लाइफ में खूब यूज करते हो. बट हैव यू एवर थिंक दैट यू आर यूजिंग द रेगुलर फॉल्सी मेथड और द बाइसेक्शन मेथड? फाइन. लुक एट दैट. सपोज यू एंटर इनटू द क्लासरूम इन समर. द रूम टेम्परेचर इज 18 डिग्री सेल्सियस. तो आप क्या कहोगे उसको भी? दैट मीन्स it's so very cold. Fine. So that everyone says sir it's too cold. तो आप क्या करोगे? थोड़ी देर के लिए एसी बंद कर दोगे. फाइन. और या एसी का टेम्परेचर बढ़ा दोगे. देन द टेम्परेचर राइजेस टू द 30 डिग्री सेल्सियस. नाउ द स्टूडेंट से इट इज अ वेरी वेरी हॉट. दैट मीन्स यू कैन से you have the two temperature 18 degree Celsius and 30 degree Celsius. Students are not comfortable with the 18 degree Celsius. Students are not comfortable with the 30 degree Celsius. So that means our target is to find at what temperature T degree Celsius we can find so that the student will be in the comfortable zone. इसका मतलब यही हो गया ना कि आपको एक ऐसा x निकालना है जिसकी वजह से वो कंफर्टेबल जोन में आ जाए. दैट मीन्स योर टारगेट इज टू फाइंड द रूट्स ऑफ द इक्वेशन. तो कैसे निकालोगे? अगर तो आप ये सोचो कि मैं इसके मिड पॉइंट से स्टार्ट करता हूं, फाइन, तो इसका मिड पॉइंट क्या हो जाएगा? 48 डिवाइडेड बाय 2 इट्स 24 डिग्री सेल्सियस. Can you say what is the comfortable temperature? If you start with the midpoint like 24, but most of the students say no, it is not a comfortable temperature. तो आप क्या करोगे? आप लोगों से इसका मतलब बाइसेक्शन मेथड इज नॉट एप्रोप्रिएट इन सच ए सिचुएशन. तो आप स्टूडेंट से उसका कंफर्ट जोन पूछोगे. यू विल कंसिडर द फीडबैक ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स रिलेटेड टू द कंफर्ट जोन. तो व्हाट इज द कंफर्ट जोन इज? स्टूडेंट से फीडबैक मीन्स द फंक्शन वैल्यू. फाइन, आप उसको मैथमेटिकली कनेक्ट करिए ना हर चीज को. सो फीडबैक मीन्स द फंक्शन वैल्यू. नाउ स्टूडेंट से at the 18 degree Celsius the temperature comfort is my minus of 10, while at the 30 degree Celsius comfort is your plus of 2. तो आप क्या बता सकते हो कि इसका जो रूट होगा वो किसके नजदीक होगा? रूट उसी के नजदीक होगा जिसकी वैल्यू 0 के नजदीक है. इन दोनों में से माइनस ऑफ 10 और 2, इन दोनों में से कौन सी वैल्यू 0 के नजदीक है? डेफिनेटली ऑफ द 2. दैट मीन्स students are more comfortable near to the 30 but not exactly 30. Have you ever noticed 30 degrees Celsius is slightly uncomfortable? Why? Because f of 30 is a 2 is near to the 0 as compared to the minus of 10, and 18 degrees Celsius is extremely uncomfortable. That means instead of taking the temperature as the midpoint, we can always choose the initial guess near to the 30 degree Celsius, and then we can draw the tangent line. This is the 18 degree, this is the 20, this is the 30 degree. यहाँ पे कितना था आपके पास? माइनस ऑफ 10 और यहाँ पे आपके पास 2 था. तो फंक्शन कुछ ऐसा जाएगा और ये पॉइंट आप निकाल दोगे बाय यूजिंग द स्ट्रेट लाइन करके. So this lesson will teach us that not only the interval like 18 degree and the 30 degree are enough to control the temperature, but the amount of the discomfortness, that means the function value, is also important to find the comfortable room temperature. And that is the same exact idea about the Regula Falsi method. Remember students, the bisection method only tell us about the interval a comma b, and it is independent of the function value. It is independent of the function value, but dependent only on the sign of the function value. However, the Regula Falsi method dependent upon the both interval and the function value. What are the features of the Regula Falsi? It use the changes property, that is the intermediate property. You can always start with the 2 points A and B whose function values are opposite signs, which is similar to the bisection method. As I mentioned you, the Regula Falsi method always use the bisection method while the always use the function value, while the bisection method ignore the function's value. Bisection method is usually slower than of the Regula Falsi methods, or you can say the Regula Falsi methods converges faster than of the bisection methods, and the geometrical idea is the equation of the straight line. What is the conclusion behind the Regula Falsi methods? Bisection method only tell us about where is the middle value occurs, while the Regula Falsi methods tell us where the straight lining joining the midpoints, joining the endpoints meet on the x-axis. By using both the locations and the function value, location means by using the endpoints and the function value, Regula Falsi's methods converges faster than of the bisection method. We will see the various examples, 15 plus example in our next lecture. If you are really interested to learn the 15 plus examples, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, mark interested to watch the next video very soon, I will upload for you. Till then, you can like and comment on this video, share this video with your friends. Best of luck, students. Happy luck.